Start us off, Carter.
Ah!
Okay.
Welcome to the show where we just do the riff from Wicked every couple of minutes. I'm caught.
And I'm not participating in this bit.
All right, fine then. I'll just throw out a month's worth of work. Fuck me then. Welcome to Carter Kevin Explain Football. I'm just Carter.
I'm just not in the mood to kill my voice.
Fair enough. I'm not either, but I commit to the bit. It's Wicked season, baby. It's the season of the witch. But actually, as as the final leaves fell, the sky turned into that kind of moody, slightly quiet overcast. We've made it, ladies and gentlemen. We got through the dog days, we got through back to school, we survived Hallows Eve and the harvest, and now we're finally at the holiday season. And with that, the final home stretch, the last month of the NFL regular season. Some teams have already punched their tickets. Some teams are seeing their dreams slip out of their hands. And Doug Peterson is inexplicably still not fired. We have a lot on our plates.
It's kind of impressive at this point. At this point, I. It's not that I don't want to say I feel bad for him. It's just like I feel like Jacksonville's even given up more.
It truly has to be at this point, it doesn't fucking matter. We might as well just let him finish the year because it's easier than, picking an interim coach. I have a very bleak metaphor for this.
Shit. Yeah.
It's basically like me and Jimmy Carter, where I just keep forgetting he's still alive. I assume they fired him at some point, and then it's like, wait a minute, he's still alive? And then, they'll show a photo of him, and you'll be like, oh my god! Why is this still happening? And that's Detroit dropping, 50 on them.
Yeah. Detroit doesn't they don't lighten up, and I respect the shit out of that.
Yes. But, yeah, so we are going to do the last 2 weeks, week 12 and week 13, the Thanksgiving week, mostly because there was a lot of traveling to be done on Thanksgiving, and also because I found most of our points were kind of the same from week to week.
Yeah, it's it's a little difficult this part of the year
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, A, there was all the traveling with Thanksgiving, drove 6 hours on Thanksgiving night, but B, it's also the factor of you you know who's good, you know who's bad, and with the exception of an upset here or there, there isn't big news in November. If that makes
Right.
sense. Like there,
Right. There's a handful of teams that we're completely certain about, we don't really have any more questions about.
yeah, like
There's the bad teams who are trying to at least set a good precedent for next year, and then there's the good teams who are starting to see some of the stink lines come off. But no, very few big sort of revelations are being made at this
yeah,
point.
the the people who have potential to make playoffs and stuff, that window is getting smaller and smaller every single week. That's
Mhm.
that's really what happens.
Yes. So shall we dive into the highlights?
We shall. Playoff clinchers. It is now the time of
Yes.
year where people start clinching the playoffs. And I wrote it in
Yes.
the notes section too. I think I did it both spots. Um, so
Yes. Thus far, who do we have?
so we have two clinching teams so far, both AFC. We have Buffalo,
Hmm.
who has their division, and Kansas City, who only has a wild card spot. They do not have their division yet.
God, that is so.
That's kind of
Well, that
that.
just right. The black magic they've done, it really does affirm my point of at some point the division is more a reflection on the bad teams than whoever's the leading team.
Yeah,
Because it's my God, thank God, Kansas City finally has at least a tiny bit of competition for their division. Whereas the Bills just sat there cool as cucumbers as the entire rest of their division set themselves on fire.
all right. Give me a second.
And I don't know. I felt weird about this Bills year because it was so set up to be just kind of like a drag that I didn't expect it to get this far. But this is the earliest someone has clinched their division since 2009, which I believe was the year the Indianapolis Colts went 15-0 to start the year, and then deliberately threw the last game.
All right, so I've crunched the numbers. The numbers have been crunched.
Yes.
Kansas City has 11 wins. The big stat that I've seen going around the last 2 weeks is how many of those wins were by more than one score.
It can't be more than 2, right?
It is exactly 2.
Wow, nailed it.
Yeah. Or no, they've only won. They only won by more than 2, or by more than one score once, and then the other game they lost. So
yes, against the Bills.
Sorry, math is wrong. Not 8, 9. Nope, just kidding. That's a 10-point game. That's more than one score. So I was right first time. It is 8. They beat the Saints 26-13 in the first week of October, so week 5, 6, and then they beat the 49ers the following week 28-18. And then every other game, it has been a one-score game, with the exception of the Bills, where that was a loss by 9 points.
I do think a lot about... I keep thinking about them in the context of the Vikings a few years ago that started 13-0. And the joke, the note was just they keep winning all these one-score games, and surely their luck will run out eventually, and then they lose to the Daniel Jones Giants in the playoffs.
Yes.
And, I know there's a big difference between a Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes.
Thank God.
But I'm exactly. I'm again, it does reflect really poorly on Baltimore and Buffalo, and I guess Houston, because they're probably going to win their division if they all don't find a way to keep Kansas City out at this point. Because again, the margin for error is so tiny for them this year.
Yeah. The Patriots or the Chiefs are skating by, and we'll talk about their next game against the Chargers later in the show. But the Bills have clearly outside of just being a solid team all around, the Bills have clearly dominated their division. Let's see, there are 2 losses this season. Who were they against? The Ravens?
The Bills' losses were to the Ravens, where they kind of just got punched straight in the face at the beginning.
Yeah.
Again, Derrick Henry is one of our nemesises.
Yeah, which that one kind of makes sense. And then they also lost to the Texans by 3 points, because field goals win games. And that's one of those, you know what? I kind of Texans are an up-and-coming, possibly consistent playoff.
That game was infuriating.
So
that game was...
I wouldn't say that was an ugly loss. I would not say that. It was just...
It looks a little worse now that Houston has kind of just putzed around, but in the moment it made sense. We're oh wow, no one can get open. Who would have guessed Khalil Shakir is a load-bearing pillar for this entire offense? Yeah. And if he's hurt, none of it works. But on the note of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen scores 3 different ways. He becomes one of the only players in NFL history to score a rushing, passing, and receiving touchdown. A delightful snow game, and we'll talk because now weather is starting to become a factor again. A beautiful snow game last week. The Buffalo Bills playing the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. What looked to be a pretty exciting game, even injuries notwithstanding for the San Francisco 49ers, ended up being a bit of a beatdown, 35-10. It really was a proof of concept of what the Bills have been going for since they lost to the Bengals in the playoffs, of we cannot be a team who gets bullied when it gets cold. We cannot be a finesse football team. And the power running game was, the running game in general just carried the day, as you could guess with a snow game. James Cook ended up having 14 carries for 107 yards. They ran for 220 yards altogether. But the play that everyone's going to remember is the...
one of the best plays of all time.
Yes, it might it might have stolen. It might have swiped. It might have been a sneaky last minute swipe the belt from Saquon Barkley for Play of the Year. Josh
Coolest
throws
play
it
of the
to
year, yeah.
Amari Cooper. Juggles the ball in the air and catches it with one hand. Sort of gets held up. Josh runs behind him. He gets the pitch, and then he breaks 2 tackles to dive into the end zone. If he's going to win the MVP, that is kind of the signature shot. And having back-to-back games where you kind of have the play of the week really sort of affirms that this just might be his season.
If Josh Allen does not get even I think it's at this point where it's just if people aren't vastly upset if he somehow doesn't get MVP after this, because I thought it was a closer race between him and Saquon up until this play.
Yes.
But
I would be fine with Saquon winning, only because, again, I have been very firm on
not a
it's
quarterback,
time for a
yeah.
running back. Could
Yeah,
I
but-
interest you in a co-MVP?
Yeah, I would entertain that. But no, Josh definitely he's earning at least his cool factor more than anything else.
Right. That game was an affirmation of the Bills this year, of the vibes being better, of the versatility in which they can play. Again, even though they only threw it 18 times, they were averaging 8 yards of it. They were still slinging it around the yard when they could. And the defense being still okay despite losing a lot of talent. Josh Allen joins a very unique group of 12 players. Do you want me to rattle off some of these names for you who have done this incredible feat? So Josh Allen is the most recent on December 1st, 2024. Christian McCaffrey did it in one of his first games as a 49er on October 30th, 2022. LaDainian Tomlinson, I don't think this is the year he broke the touchdown record, on October 16th, 2005 against the Oakland Raiders. A man by the name of David Patton, who doesn't even have an icon on StatMuse, in 2001. Walter Payton in 1978 or 79. Someone named Harmon Wages in 1969. Dan Reeves in 1967. Keith Lincoln in 65. John Henry Johnson, which is the most 1960-ass name you could get for a football player.
Really is.
Gene Gedman in 1958, Frank Gifford in 1956, and Ray Renfro in 1953. I'll give you $2 if you guess what football team he played for.
In 1953,
54.
54. Can you give me a division? 'Cause that's
Sure.
Before 3 reassignments or alignments.
Right. It would be the AFC North.
AFC North. God, I don't know. I don't think I know who's in. Was it the Bills?
No, it was the Cleveland Browns,
Damn
who are a very old team. This was back before the Super Bowl, so he won 2 championships. The Browns actually have 5 championships pre Super Bowl era.
I was gonna guess the Browns, and then you said AFC North, and I exclusively thought of the Northeast and panicked. That was gonna.
I don't think the Bills existed yet.
I thought the Browns would have been in Central, because I mean, obviously we were live back then, but with the exception of the West, it was literally West Coast teams, and the West, roughly the Rockies and West, and then the East teams were typically East Coast, with the exception of Cowboys and stuff, and then the Central teams were Michigan down.
Yes, this event predated the Buffalo Bills by about 7 years.
Yeah,
This was pre-AFL.
that's kind of
Anyway, but yes, a fun day in the snow, which leads us to, we're getting some snow games.
Yes.
And I'm also realizing you were right. I actually really did screw up my voice.
Yeah. Look at me being ahead of the game. No,
Lessons learned.
snow games in this time of year, in my opinion, is one of the best combinations. Because
Yes.
I advocated for this last season when we were talking more about playoff games and stuff like that, where I said and it's on the record that what's it called? The Super Bowl should be played in a very neutral location. I think I typically say like the middle of Nebraska, in its own specialized stadium where weather is not a factor. I want the Super Bowl to be the most it is just player talent versus player talent game slash
Mm.
coach talent and stuff. But leading up to that point, I want them to fight for it. And a snow game is one of those ways. You get the
Yes.
snow, you get the stupidly brutal cold where it's like wind chill when you start with the wind chill when you start it's like 20 something degrees. Like
It really helps. It really helps this year that the snow games thus far have been kind of iconic
yes.
to truly affirm that the anti-snow game people are a bunch of dweebosaurus rexes.
Yes, especially if you get a rowdy fan base. Like
Yes.
hot take or yeah, I would say this is a hot take. If your team has a dome and it's not to protect it from hurricanes, it's for like snow, your team's
Mm.
kind of soft. At I think Vikings in
Mhm.
Dallas, because I don't know how often Dallas gets hit with hurricanes, but I think a lot of negative thoughts about
That's just
Dallas.
rain. But I guess Dallas doesn't get, well,
It's
Texas doesn't get
Dallas
a lot of rain.
anyway. Like if you look at the teams where they have like crazy snow games, like look at the Bills. People
Mm.
are throwing snow all over the place. Like anytime the Bills score, they're chucking them all around. They're having fun. They're paying fans $20 an hour to shovel their own seats. And it's just like that brings like a crazy ass community together of like these are not fair weather fans. These are not the our front runner fans. These are the diehards. Like look at how Green Bay reacts if they get a snow game.
Mm.
They're all nuts. People wearing cheese heads. It gets so everything's so close that it's just like you stay warm with just everyone screaming the entire time. In Philly, you're pegging Santa with snowballs. Like
God, we're never going to live that down.
no, but it's kind of our own. It's our own fault in
Yeah,
the best
we did
possible
it.
way.
We stand behind it. But yes, we have back-to-back weeks with iconic snow games.
Yes.
Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off a shocking upset of the Ravens, only to turn around and kind of have a dinky game against Cleveland. But again, if there's one thing I've learned from doing this show, don't overreact to division games, especially the AFC North,
Yeah.
and don't overreact to weird weather games. That game went from like perfect weather to like a snow globe by the end of the game. Majestic, beautiful, amazing.
It looked like static. And
Mm.
who was wearing all white? Pittsburgh, I think was. I think Pittsburgh was in all white. No, Cleveland. No, Cleveland was in all white, and you can barely
Mm.
see them. It was awesome. It looked terrible to watch in the best way.
Yes, and like we said with the Bills game, majestic, crazy fans throwing snow up into the air like LeBron with the chalk. Uh, Mac Hollins heel clicking his the
Yep.
snow off his cleats as he's running a route.
Yep.
Uh, just the Bills have revealed themselves to be the cheekiest scamps when it comes to night games.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the best celebrations in the NFL is the team penguin slide or the snow angel. Whenever
Mm.
you get a defensive interception and the entire defense sprints down towards, cause they always sprint down towards the end zone anyway to celebrate.
Right.
But you get them all sliding on their bellies across. Awesome. You get a solid touchdown. You fall back into the snow, make a snow angel. Awesome. I feel like that's those are some top tier celebrations, and especially at this point of year, it's warranted, obviously, because especially if you're fighting for it, something big. But it's just like this is what makes football fun. it's obviously grown-ups playing a children's game, and I feel like the Venn diagram gets bigger and bigger when it comes to a snow game. That center section.
You know what's wild? I was literally going to say that exact same thing. It's the one time that affirms that this is a silly game that children play
Yeah,
in the best way.
because it's like because obviously you're compensating for things like crazy play, like the weather, so you have to get creative. That Amari Cooper, that Josh Allen to Amari Cooper back to Josh Allen touchdown hole situation would not have happened in a like sunny day game. That is the like winter, like the snowy, we're gonna get silly attitude
Mm.
that I think makes football even more enjoyable to watch, especially this time of year where some of the games might seem kind of pointless in watching. It just it brings a tear to me eye.
Hell yeah. Um, I don't think this is a similar point, but moving on. Bad teams showing how it's done. Now, I spent a lot of ink talking about Jacksonville getting absolutely cheek slapped by the Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of games over these last 2 weeks that I think kind of affirm what I was talking about, where it's like you have to be fully quitting on your team to lose by that many points. Because
Absolutely.
I think throughout the schedule, we were seeing very good examples of teams that are bad. Teams that are bad, like on a fundamental level, lack of talent, lack of this, lack of that, still at least competing. A game I randomly thought of bringing up was the Detroit Indianapolis game. Now, they did end up losing 24-6. The score, not a great score.
No.
Still multiple touchdowns and field goals. When you actually watch the game, you're like, okay, there's one drop pass here, there's one overthrow here, there's a backbreaking penalty here. Like, it looked like they belonged on the same football field. Similar to that, the Tennessee-Houston game, which Tennessee actually won, despite
Yes.
the absolute chaos. I'm pulling up because the Tennessee Titans are, like, in terms of, like, there's a thing in the NBA called, like, league pass teams, because you can get, like, the NBA, like, all-access pass, and it's like, in no universe will they ever put Washington on prime time, or Utah. But, like, you find a handful of teams where, like, yeah, they're kind of interesting to watch. Um, the Titans are that, because they're so chaotic in terms of Will Levis got sacked 8 times. He threw an intercept, like, it's hard to overstate how many sacks 8 is, and yet they're still somehow able to win this game because they threw multiple 40-yard touchdown bombs. And the interception got returned for a touchdown, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are the masters of, like, having a terrible success percentage, but having a great EPA, because every, like, interception, every fumble, every sack gets canceled out by, like, a 90-yard touchdown throw. But that's what I mean. In terms of the league, there's so much chaos. There's so much, like, random shit that can happen that it's like, it feels abnormal for a team not to at least keep it within, like, 15 to 16 points. And you actually brought up a very specific game that's a perfect example of that.
Yep. Dallas versus Washington.
Probably one of the most fun games of this entire 2 weeks.
Disagree. I think.
Disagree?
Yes. Here's why I disagree.
Because you don't like Dallas.
Well, there's that, but I can be unobjective or objective. No, unobjective. That's the one. When I want to be. The score going into the first half after the first half, was 3-3. The score going into the fourth quarter, 10-9. Not impressive.
8.
That's not impressive football at all. The score going into the final 3 minutes, 20-9 in favor of Dallas. Which is like, all right. And Washington did have a lead at a couple points to now. And it's just like, all right, whatever. Kind of a blowout. And then the final 3 minutes of the game were fucking insane.
Right. It really was like a man. Washington really stunk up the joint on this one. I can't believe they're going to lose by multiple scores.
Yes.
And then after a fumble going into the fourth quarter, the final little like section of scoring, the fourth quarter was touchdown, Washington down 2015. Touchdown on a kickoff return. So he muffs the catch on the field or on the kickoff. Does a spin move that looks like your controller turned off and the button just got pressed. Like it wasn't at anyone specific. Somehow turns it for a touchdown. Washington's forced to take a field goal, down 27-20. Dallas punts it after a 3-and-out. Jalen Daniels throws a 40-yard bomb to Terry McLaurin, who somehow just does not get touched. Again, that's another insane thing in terms of like talking about bad teams. It's really hard not to just touch someone when you have guys in the area. Everyone's fast. Everyone can like reach and lunge. Then follow up. Another and they attempt the onside kick because they miss the fucking PAT. Field goal kickers can also lose games.
It's a live or die situation. I've always said that. You can look up the text receipts. I always say, you live by the field goal, you die by the field goal. I've been saying it's part of the.
But he had already missed an extra point that game. I'm like, why do you not just go for two? Why do you screw around?
Because they're silly.
Yeah, and then they kick the onside kick, and Dallas just to stunt on him returns it for a touchdown. Truly one of the more exciting fourth quarters we've seen this year. And I guess, again, it affirms, Dallas has sucked 90% of this year. Washington has been good with some ups and downs. Ideally, on any given Sunday, a bad team can at least put up a good fight, and if the right circumstances hit, like the Washington kicker missing 2 goddamn extra points, they can pull out the win.
Yeah. It was just fucking insanity. You would have watched a very boring game for the first 50 plus minutes. And then, after the 50-minute mark, it's oh, this might be a little exciting. And then after the 55-minute mark, in, a traditionally hour-long game, he says in quotes, that final 5 minutes is the just world's greatest, football game. A sped run.
Mm-hmm. It is funny because someone was talking about, what's up with the NFL product? And I'm like, someone just made the point of, I feel like Red Zone kind of hides the fact that, a lot of games are like this, where nothing happens and then everything happens. But Red Zone only shows you the stuff that's happening.
Yes.
So it creates this really weird effect of, you think the entire game is like that fourth quarter, when in reality it really just was that single 15 minutes that were the most exciting thing you're going to see in a while.
If you do not, hot take, if you do not support a team and you only watch Red Zone, you do not realize how boring football can be.
Oh, that is, honestly, that's not even a hot take. That's just facts.
Sometimes I just say hot take before I say things just to see if I can rile you up.
No, I agree with that completely, especially because, look, again, I'm a fucking Bills fan. I've had some bleak periods, and there is nothing more of a slog than, a team that, the best their offense can do is run the ball 3 yards and kick up a cloud of dirt with a quarterback who just can't handle pressure. It's just a slog. You just sit there this is non-competitive.
Yeah. Borderline unwatchable games. But
right.
You're a fan, and that's what keeps you watching.
Yeah. There's a reason why everyone has been bringing their hands about, why is the offense down? We need the offense. Because it's yeah. Unless, in the absence of great, aggressive defense, it can just be such a goddamn slog. And that kind of leads us into our don't sleep on games. You go with the homer pick, but I don't disagree with it, because it's actually one of the most important games that happened, arguably, this whole year, I'd say.
Here's why. I mean, it's definitely a homer pick, and I typically do not like picking the homer pick for these. Because I feel like that kind of ruins us scoping out, us always picking the homer picks for the games. We don't scout. It's been a long day. Scout out what truly is a good football game. And
Right.
that's kind of why, like, with like in my like weird own ethics and morality, like you'll never see a Thursday night game unless if it is the most insane game on the planet, be the Don't Sleep On game. You'll never see the Sunday night game be in it. You'll never see the Monday night game be it because they have their own standalone time slots. So you can
Right.
focus
We're at
on
least
that.
trying to we're trying to give. I like to think we at least try to give our handful of viewers at least like not even deep cuts, but try to give them a richer sense.
Yeah.
Like, we have a lot of friends who are casual fans, like Tom, but it's like, well, they're going to watch the primetime games. They're going to know what happened in those. They're going to know what happened to their teams. We got to show them, like, something a little unique.
But like these games, the Don't Sleep On games, it's like if you can't get to another game for your team and you have the ability to only watch one game the entire night, what game would it be? And
Mm.
the Eagles versus the Ravens. God damn.
Yes. It is a game that absolutely lived up to the hype of being one of the sort of.
It was a battle of
Kind of-
juggernauts.
Yes, a battle of juggernauts, but one that I think sets a very interesting narrative going forward about where both of these teams are kind of going.
Mm-hmm. It's if you looked at this game at the end of last season, after the playoff picture, with how the Eagles fell apart and with how the Ravens were doing great, you would assume that the Ravens would have swept the floor with the Eagles. But due to
Right.
off-season acquisitions, especially a huge one by the Ravens by getting Derrick Henry, you would also think this is going to be insanity. And then you get to this weird point where the Ravens, while they don't have a best record, they're currently 8-5.
Mhm.
They've still been crazy good in all their games, with the exception
Right.
I think one fluke against the Raiders.
Yes. Which was the let's just throw this out game
Yeah.
for a while.
And every other game, it's been hella competitive, including this one. This game was way more competitive than it thought, and
Right.
I don't know if it's
It felt like the Ravens had the Eagles kind of dead to rights for the entire first half.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
First half it seemed like the Ravens game. The Eagles didn't score at once the first quarter, as is tradition apparently. And then you get the second quarter where the Eagles score twice, but the Ravens end the half with a field goal, so it's 14-12 going into the half. And then everyone starts picking up. Saquon's getting more runs. Derrick Henry's getting more runs. It was a fucking bloodbath of a grudge match. Nothing happened in the third quarter in the best possible way.
Mhm.
It was
football can be a slog, but even that's not dependent on scoring.
no.
You can have a 0-0 matchup where you're seeing some of the coolest shit on a technical and physical skill level that you've ever seen.
Yeah. One of the things I said it to a bunch of people this last week, especially at Thanksgiving, because a bunch of my family is Eagles fans and stuff, but not all of them are. And we were talking about this game because it's a hype game. And I'm like, first off, I said, if the Eagles don't look stupid, I'll be happy, which they didn't. And then I kept saying, it's going to be a battle of the trenches, and the one thing I want to see more than anything else is Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter on a defensive line for the Eagles going up against Derrick Henry. And we got that a couple of snaps in the best possible way.
Yes. The Eagles' I think that's what really stood out. Of all the position groups, it's the defense that stood out the most for me because, again, when you look at this game, if you were imagining this game last year, it's like, oh, the Ravens' offense will wipe the floor. Yeah. The Eagles' defense, what can the Eagles' defense not do last year? Anything.
Tackle for their
but
lives.
Mainly tackle.
You would
or be in the right position. And Derrick Henry eats teams like that alive.
Yeah, if you ran up to James Bradberry last year, he would bounce right off of you Doesn't matter how fast you're going, if you have the ball or not.
Mhm. And
They
yet,
do that way.
yeah. And this version of the Eagles defense is a complete 180 from that. And yeah, it starts with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis,
Yeah.
just kind
Milton
of like
Williams,
setting the
like let's
term of
not
the offense.
like I'm just picking the two like big boys, but we can't forget like people like Josh Sweat was getting some solid stuff in. But
Mhm.
honestly though, the play, the like, here is your nice comfortable cup of tea, ease your heart play of the game was the Ravens being on offense. And Derrick Henry starts running down. And Derrick Henry, not a small dude.
Mhm.
And fucking rookie Cooper DeJean.
A man who could generously be described as clear.
Yes. One of the exciting whites just hits him with a double leg takedown of all
Like a
time.
pro wrestling move.
It was.
Yeah,
It,
that'll be in his highlight package till the day he dies.
oh,
If they ever do
absolutely.
like an ESPN little package on him for Monday Night Football, that'll be one of the 3 clips they show
That
forever.
was gorgeous. Derrick Henry had 19 carries and was held for 82 yards, no touchdowns.
Right.
Zay
You really
Flowers.
do realize his
Yeah.
stats are so dependent on having that one run where he just gets a full head of steam, bounces off one person, you're like, oh, and he's gone.
Yeah. He was not able to get gone the entire time. What was his average of yards?
It was like 4.3, which is good, but it's like,
4.3. Yeah, it's good for almost every other player. It's bad for Derrick Henry.
right. This is like this and the Pittsburgh game are the only 2 games where I'm like, man, he is really just he's got nothing here.
Yeah, and then Zay Flowers, their top receiver, well, he did get 74 yards because he got a huge play early
Hmm.
on. Then they put him against their other rookie corner, Quinion Mitchell, and he got 2 more catches after that, and that's about it.
Right. Like again, like people do the meme of like they can't keep getting away with this with the Eagles getting a lot of these guys. Like again, the big talk out of this game was like I can't believe the Eagles. And at the end of the day, it's like look, they got Jalen Carter because Jalen Carter made a bad decision in college, and the Eagles made a gamble that like, hey, that was a byproduct of the Georgia football environment not being the best in terms of discipline and like player safety. And fortunately for them, that bet seems to have panned out, and he has been well, I'm not going to say a model citizen. I don't know what he's been up to, but he's kept his nose clean.
He's been
But
doing
letting them
good.
get, yeah, but letting them get Josh Sweat, Cooper DeJean, Jordan
Quinion Mitchell.
Davis,
Yeah.
and Quinyon Mitchell is unfucking acceptable. How did you let that happen, NFL?
It's kind of crazy. Also, I just with that play, that highlight career worthy play from Cooper DeJean, I watched people have been showing like how we trying to get him during the draft. So I rewatched the Eagles like behind the scenes draft video,
Hmm.
and the excitement when they're like looking around as Quinion got to them and stuff, and how he's like, "Oh hell yeah, dude!" And then Cooper DeJean, they were trying to trade up to guarantee getting him because they knew the Packers were going to get him first. So they were originally going to go, I think, like 2 picks in front of the Packers, but then the Rams made a deal to get that spot. And then they were negotiating with Washington. And the second that it was announced the Rams took the spot in front of where Washington was, Howie just like did his witchcraft magic or whatever the hell he does and traded up with Washington in a relatively fair going for Washington just in terms of picking spots.
Hmm.
And the second the Rams like picked someone else, the entire room fucking broke out into cheers. And Howie's on the phone with Cooper, like he's sending someone else on the phone to call and inform. And like it's like Washington, this deal's done. Like you get this pick, this pick, this pick. It's like you there. Call the people, let them know we have traded for them with them for picks. And then Howie's like already on the phone with Cooper DeJean, and it's just like he's like, and with the classic, "Hey man, it's Howie Roseman." So how do you want to beat an Eagle? And it's good to watch. I highly recommend rewatching it.
Yeah. For me, this game is like there's a lot of discussion on Philadelphia sports radio about like, did we overreact to those first two losses? And I stand no, because it looked exactly like last year did.
Yes.
And this game was like an affirmation that this Eagles team very much is different. That
Yeah.
the problems they had last year are not the problems they have anymore. While for the Ravens, it's a concerning look at like the problems that popped up last year that kept them just short of a Super Bowl might still be there. Because for the Eagles, it's like, what were their problems last year? Well, I know for a lack of talent on defense, but also a lack of tackle. Like the biggest problem was they just could not fucking tackle anyone.
They couldn't
Like in an
tackle.
almost inexplicable way. Like, and again, for all the shit I've given Vic Fangio and like his sort of like dink and dunk defense, it's like, yeah, but when all of your guys are locked in and playing on a string and tackling perfectly, it looks really, really good, especially when you have high end talent. And on offense, it was this inability to accept what you can and can't do. Like, they kept getting screwed over by the blitz because they simply refused to rearrange their offense to account for the fact that Jalen Hurts couldn't run as well as he usually does because he was hurt, and the run game wasn't where it needed to be. And this year, they're just like, no, our best path to victory is Saquon. It is the Saquon Barkley show.
Yes.
He is like he is both our pace setter and our closer. Like, he will come in, set the terms. We'll still be able to rely on the passing game, but at the end of the game, it's his show. That last run he had, where it was like, I think it was like 2nd and 7. They were just trying to run out the clock. He just puts it, despite getting hit 22 other times in that game, not including the passes he caught, just puts his head down and just drives someone back 5 yards. You're like, oh yeah, the Eagles understand who they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And oh well, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, watching him like do that, it adds the extra option. Like, you have, which makes it a different game. But also, like, specifically to defense, because that's the biggest thing. And kind of going back to when you're talking about those losses. At those losses, we weren't really starting or playing to those rookies' advantages. Like, we were still doing, like, no offense to him, Avonte Maddox is still starting out, and he has not had a great showing the last couple of years. But he's still good enough to be, like, that slot. And then he hurt his toe or something like that, and then we threw in Cooper DeJean to that spot, and it's just like, oh shit, like, this kid's holding his own. And Quinyon Mitchell's been locking people down for weeks at that point. And then
yes,
early bye, players went to the coaches. The linemen assured, like Sirianni and the offensive stuff. It's like, you call more runs. Let Saquon eat more. And it's like, we will make those passes, but just call, like, or those blocks, just call them. And then look what's happened post their bye.
And meanwhile, for the Ravens, it is just like an inexplicable lack of discipline that always seems to rear its ugly head with this era of Ravens defense, or this Ravens in general. Just backbreaking penalties on defense, just a sort of constant sense of miscommunication that results in big chunk plays. On offense, there's always some kind of backbreaking drop, whether it's Rashad Bateman or what's his name, Deontay Johnson or Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
When things start going bad, pivoting away from the run game, that's basically their cheat code. Again, Lamar Jackson averages 10 yards a run, and you have Derrick Henry. Like, it's okay. You can still commit to the run even when you're down, because it'll pay off later. Again, that's what the Eagles do. It's like, if you still commit to this, it'll pay off later because you'll have the advantage of all that wear and tear against the defense. And on top of that, we are just seeing what started as a red flag last year is now like a full-blown panic of Justin Tucker might just be washed.
Oh, man. Yeah, he missed. All right, because there's been also the argument of he missed 3 field goals. That's a fact. And the score difference, technically the Ravens would have won if they missed those, he made those field goals, which is kind of correct. They would not have won. because the Ravens' last touchdown was in garbage time, where they were
Yes.
2 scores behind, and the Eagles were kind of just taking it lighter on them. People are being swapped out for backups. Like, they weren't, like, it's clear that the effort was being slowed down. So, like, them scoring in garbage time kind of means nothing, because that's what the Eagles honestly do best. They have a slow first quarter, then they bully the second quarter, the third quarter, and then beginning of the fourth quarter, and then they just kind of are like, all right, we have a safe enough lead. We're gonna let them do whatever in garbage time. It happened in the Washington game. It happened in the Rams game. It happens because they waste their own clock. And because I feel like if they really wanted to, that got like, and the Eagles really turned on the Jets for the last drive against them, especially on defense. These teams wouldn't be scoring in garbage time based off of the rest of the game. They're just letting it happen. So you also picked Don't Sleep on the Game for the last 2 weeks, and I think I like it. I think I agree with
Right.
you. Yeah, I do.
I was torn between this and Kansas City Raiders, but that was a primetime game.
Yeah,
Everyone knows the Chiefs have weird red flags. The only thing I wanted to note is Brock Bowers probably should just be Rookie of the Year. He leads the league in fucking receptions. As a rookie tight end.
That's crazy.
They don't do that. He leads the league. He has more than Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. Like, think about all the great receivers in the league right now. More than Amon-Ra. Trent McDuffie is an all-pro, and he was kind of clowning him in that game. But anyway, I actually picked the LA Chargers versus the Atlanta Falcons. And I picked this for 2 because, again, I've become a slut for the Chargers, apparently. Not the prettiest game from them. 17 of 56 on 56 yards rushing on 17 carries, and it felt like it. Again, 2 yards in a cloud of dirt. Passing lanes just really being stuffed up. Poor Quinn Johnson had another drop. I do feel bad because he really has been improving this year, but it's just like, again, it's not quite where you want it to be, especially now that they have playoff aspirations. Ladd McConkey once again having a delightful game. I think he got hurt halfway through the game. He had 117 yards basically in 2 quarters.
First off, one of the best names ever. Ladd McConkey.
Again, Beverly Hillbillies ass name, considering they're in LA.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm very partial. Someone had a delicious hot take of the Chiefs trading up to get Xavier Worthy and not Ladd McConkey might have cost them a Super Bowl this year. And I hate to say it, and when you draft Xavier Worthy, you don't anticipate Marquise Brown just being out for the whole year and Rashid Rice's knees getting exploded.
Yeah.
But you just look at this guy, look at him even as a rookie being able to do 3 tiers of route tree, and you're just like, oh, could you imagine that? Look how good he is with Justin Herbert. Just imagine how good that would also look with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, if Patrick Mahomes had him as a weapon, I feel like the 1-score game count would be lower.
Yeah, he already looks like I'll be generous and say top 20, but he looks fucking good. I am looking and I'm like, right, and I'm looking at the list of I'm looking at the list and I'm like, okay, look, I know Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't had the best season, but he's still an elite talent. He still has elite upside.
I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has an argument where he did go to a team that kind of is using him right. It's just it's not the most well-rounded team yet.
Right.
But I think,
and I also think, a part of it, the disappointment is the hype, and he was the highest drafted fantasy rookie wide receiver ever. There was a lot of things going against him.
Yeah, he had a lot that he had a lot more to lose than Ladd McConkey. But I don't think I wouldn't consider him a wash yet.
Oh, absolutely not. And I'm all right, I'll keep him ahead of Ladd. Link Neighbors has an insane usage percentage already and looks dynamic every time he touches the ball. Brian Thomas has such a unique physical trait of like just insane speed for his size. So I'm tempted. Like if Brian Thomas was on a better team than the Jacksonville Jaguars, he would be getting so much play for Rookie of the Year.
Oh,
But then I'm like, okay, Roma Dunze, no, like Led's been better. Like he's obviously been better than Xavier. He's been better than Keon, but also Keon's been hurt for a while. Like he I am kind of like, goddamn, maybe he should have been in the first round. But anyway, like honestly, this game was more of
he's the steal of the
good.
draft. I was gonna say, I feel like
yeah, I'm gonna be honest, he is one of
on the offensive side of things. I think he is the steal of the draft, based off of how everyone else has been playing.
And I like a part of it is, and I wonder how much of it is just like, well, he's the only guy Herbert can throw to reliably, and I'm like, yeah, but imagine how much easier it's going to be when they have one other receiver who demands attention.
Yeah.
For the Chargers, this win was just an affirmation of, again, like culture, like being able to win an ugly, sad little football game. But mostly, I wanted to bring up this game because the warning signs in Atlanta are getting louder and louder at a rate that, like, isn't going to go away very anytime soon. Kirk, the last few weeks, has looked very old. He's looked very...
He's old man Kirk. I think that's...
Yeah. You've described him as a gunslinger, but the problem is he does not have like the leg strength to be a gunslinger now. In his
Vikings time, he was a gunslinger. He's, in my opinion, he still has that title, but I don't think he's he's earning it.
Mm-hmm.
At least,
yes, he threw 4 interceptions in this game, one of which was in the red zone, and just one of the ugliest. I don't know what you were thinking there, buddy. Throws of the year. He threw a 5th that got called back for a penalty. And again, it's like so much of like we have to go get Kirk Cousins was this idea of like, well, he'll raise all of this offensive talent. And it's like, is he? Like, again, Kyle Pitts is back to being bad again. Bijan is struggling because, they're just stuffing the box.
Yeah.
And like, the fact that I cannot reasonably say that they shouldn't just put Michael Penix in is kind of concerning this late into the season. In terms of like what unknowns there still are, I'm like, with the fact that he's healthier at this point, and he probably has a livelier arm, at least make Michael Penix a more tantalizing option.
Yeah, and it's also confusing because the Falcons and Buccaneers are also tied for their division lead at 6-6. So
yes,
they're exclusively playing for the playoffs. They're not playing for a wild card or anything like that. It's division or nothing.
Yeah, like if you don't win the division in the South, you're just not going to get to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
The only saving grace the Falcons have right now is they have a 2-game tiebreaker over the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers lost to them twice.
Yes.
But
and
they're very lucky at the back half of their schedule. They have a very tough game against Minnesota, but then it's Raiders, Giants, Washington, Carolina.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, Carolina's looked better than them.
Yeah, so it's gonna I think it's gonna be, it's not gonna be between the Falcons and Buccaneers about who wins out. I think it's gonna be which one of them loses. I don't think the winner like last year. I don't think the winner of the NFC South is going to earn the right to be called a winner. I'm just gonna. It's gonna be they don't deserve to be the loser. And honestly, the Saints have a way harder schedule. They have the Commanders and the Packers.
Yes.
I was gonna say the Saints are only 2 games behind, and hell, the Panthers aren't even eliminated from playoff contention yet. But they have,
we will talk about I have a specific note for them because the Panthers story has suddenly gone from the saddest in the NFL to actually one of the more inspiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really concerning, and I really do think it's just I don't know. We talk about process. My big thing is process. You have to have a vision. And for all the heat they got for drafting Michael Penix, where it's you need a pass rusher. Atlanta's never had a good pass rush. I'm almost no, the problem was not spending the money in the offseason on pass rushers, and instead spending $100 million on Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles tear, when clearly something happened. They keep explaining, we fell in love with Penix during the draft process, and we realized we might not be able to get to draft this high again. And it's was it really that? Or did you have Kirk in the room long enough to realize he might not be 100% anymore?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if you had that instinct in your head, you needed to be ready to put Penix in sooner. Because again,
Yeah.
like
If I
the
feel
whole
like
selling point of Penix was like he's older, he'll be ready to go right away,
yeah.
and you have like a shorter window with him.
Yeah, and I feel like if they were at like a more losing spot and not fighting for it, he would be starting by now. I feel like they would have taken Kirk out and been like, fuck it, let's get the new guy some
Yeah,
snaps, and really have like get like that's when they give up on the season. But they're not at
right.
that spot yet. They're not at the point
It
to
would
give
have
up
to
on the
be a we're
season.
saving the season thing,
Yeah,
where it's hard to justify putting in a rookie quarterback under any circumstances when it's like, oh, well, we're still in it.
yeah,
Like, you need to lose at least two more straight and be like, we have to throw a Hail Mary pass here to, like, keep this thing afloat. Even though it's been bad, even though they've lost three straight,
hmm.
like, I think they can talk themselves into this might have just been a bad bounce and we can turn it around.
All right. Shall we hit the lows?
Yeah, we kind of had to start with a kind of a bummer one, ladies and gentlemen.
Not
Trevor
calling
Lawrence
them
is
lows
current.
for no reason.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence is currently on the IR for a pretty severe concussion he received in the Houston Texans Jacksonville Jaguars
Yes.
game. I genuinely thought he was done for the season already, but I guess, again, it was the sunk cost, like, much like with Tua, it's the sunk cost fallacy of, like, we're in too deep this season. You know, I already got the money. I gotta play. And on a run where he was preparing to slide, Aziz Al Shayer decides to die. You know, a lot of people are trying to downplay the hits. It's weirdly been a discourse about, like, oh, well, fake sliding makes it so hard for the defender. And I'm like, folks, he had at least 5 yards.
Yeah.
He dove, like, as he's sliding, he's, like, crouching to move in, and he raises his forearm. That was as clean, that was as clear a deliberate hit job that you'll see outside of a hotel in New York City. That's
Oh
a
God,
topical joke
that's
for you.
very true. But also, I feel like a
Woo!
big
Him
part.
boning.
Yeah, I feel like a big part is also the fact of this isn't his first time doing this.
Yes, I am shocked. Like I did not know this whole sub story of him. He like punched someone when he was on the Bengals sideline to the point where the guy's like, "What did I do? I wasn't even in the play.
Yeah,
I was on the sideline." Um, he tried to start a fight immediately after. He tried to start a fight with the fans. Like, frankly, I think
it's
what did he end up getting? 3 games?
3 game suspension. I think it's. I mean, if it was up to me, I think especially this late in the year, I think he'd be done for the season minimum. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's like 50% the hit itself, and then the other 50% is the reaction to the hit. Because and like straight up, the offensive lineman on who immediately got in his face after that hit and started like and hit him back and also got suspended. Like from Jacksonville, it's like I respect the hell out of that. I think
Mm.
I think if especially your quarterback, but any teammate, if they get like hit in a pretty dirty fashion like that, and the dude is going on his own mode, it's like, nah, you defend the shit out of that. You like, you'll have to pay a fine. You'll have to maybe sit out a game because that's just how it is. You're probably done for that game. But that entire locker room is gonna buy you a round of beers. Fact. In a good way.
I actually think it's pretty absurd. The lineman got punished for retaliating. I think that sets
No,
a really bad standard for like.
it sets a. I think it's a matter. Well, I mean, he did. I'm not also not 100% sure it was alignment. I'm pretty sure, but it's also the fact of like he. I don't know if he got suspended long term or at all. But he was disqualified from the game,
Mm.
and I feel like that is a fair precedent to keep the disqualification. But suspensions, if that were to happen, I don't know for a fact if it did or not. Would be stupid. But
But
yeah, no. I think I would have if I was in charge of choosing his punishment, he would be done for the season because he's done this before. He's
yeah,
yelling at the fans, which I get is a part of football, but it's like when it's kind of it's I mean it's not all like fans yelling at the players is not always deserved, but like you're arguing with the refs to a point where you have to have your coach walk you off that field. Which if I was his coach, like not even if I was his uh what's it called like teammate or anything like that. If I was his coach, I would have walked up to him, just grabbed him by the face mask and drug him off the field myself if I had to go out there and do something about it.
Right? Because the way it immediately escalated right after the hit, like I genuinely was like,
I was like, oh
yeah, I'm
shit.
like, no, you gotta get him off this field, man. He's gonna like
Some
someone's gonna get action, like someone's
someone's
gonna
gonna
get
get
hurt
way
even
more hurt.
worse.
Yeah. If like in my brain, if I was a coach, the second I have to go on a field to get a player to come off of it, you're heading straight to the locker. You are not pass and go. You are not collecting $200.
You're not waiting for the ref to decide that.
I would have walked you back there myself, and you would be hella lucky to be like, no, it wouldn't be like the whole Antonio Brown thing where it's like, by the time the post game press conference happens, I'm not saying you are no longer a part of this organization,
Hmm.
because it's like, I I find myself to be very tolerable, but it's like a player a player disrespecting another team is one thing. A player disrespecting refs, especially how the refs have been the last few seasons, another thing. But when you're just getting disrespected by your own player as the head coach, you can't take that crap.
Right. And it's also like the defiance even after, like he appeals it, which whatever, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, go for
But
it.
now he's, yeah, like whatever, it's a part of
It's the
your
motions.
obligation. Yeah. Um, and he's like tweeting like, all right, you want me to be the enemy? Fine, I'll be your villain. And on top, like posting pictures of the Joker.
Yeah,
I swear to God, this is true. And then, you know,
he's having
centering,
his Joker
he is
art.
also, yeah, he's also posting his free Palestine cleats because it's Advocacy Month
Yeah,
or week, I guess. And I'm just like, man, you're actually not helping here. Like, I'd really prefer the only openly pro-Palestine player in the league right now to not be a crazy person. I think it just sets a really bad precedent, but I digress. Yeah, I don't know. I'm also just horribly disappointed with the league immediately trying to pivot the discourse to like fake slides and stuff because I'm like, guys, like this is why I don't know what to tell you, but this is like why players feel the need to go out there with concussions
yeah,
because like they clearly get a debilitating injury and you talk yourself into like maybe they deserved it, and I'm like that's insane. Like we either have to be about player safety or we not, and this is like it was the most obvious slide situation. He literally gave up
and
trying to get the first down to slide.
yeah. If it,
Like what are we doing here,
it'd
people?
be like he wasn't even that close to a first down either. It would be one thing if it was like a, oh, he's gonna see if he could fake him out for the for the first down or something like that. But it's like, no, you're not. It's Trevor Lawrence on a terrible season. So what if he gets a first down? Like worst case scenario.
And
And
it just underlines also like the bad vibes the Texans have had lately of again just being undisciplined,
yeah,
just like the stress of having expectations getting to their heads, and just the season not being a wash because they'll still compete and like I still believe on the right Sunday they can beat anyone, but like
yeah.
the idea that they are like a true, serious, straight-laced Super Bowl contender right now just feels a little off kilter.
hmm All right. Next up, another suspension. Deontay Johnson from the Ravens because
Apparently, he just refused to enter the game.
he refused to enter the Eagles game, and I don't know if it's a diva thing. I don't know if it's some sort of like not properly documented injury. I don't want to make any assumptions on anything like that, but this is the fact is he is suspended for one game for I think poor teammanship for not wanting to go in on the Eagles game without a proper notification on why,
Hmm.
which also kind of bullshit. Like that I would be a little butthurt if I was one of his teammates. And I mean, if there's some sort of like not properly documented injury stuff, it's like that's would hinder his play. It's like, all right, I can understand that. It's we didn't dot all the T's and cross all the I's. Like that happened. And it's like, ooh, well, we fucked up on that one. But if it's just like a diva behavior, I wouldn't want to be on his team, especially on like this quality of a team. Because while the Ravens don't have the best record, you can't deny they're good. They are a good team.
They, again, like I know they lost to Pittsburgh, but I still feel a little more confident in them going into the playoffs than Pittsburgh, despite what Pittsburgh's shown us. Sorry, lost my train. Just saw a egregious Minions meme relating to current events. I'll put it that way.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, I screened it. I'll send it to you guys later. Let me get focus. We're almost at the end of this. Well, yeah, it's just so funny because it's like Diontae Johnson, like, he's what they wanted. George Pickens is what they wanted Diontae Johnson to be. Another one of this lineage of like Pittsburgh receivers who are kind of basket cases, but like the physical upside excuses it. But the problem is that like Antonio Brown was consistently a statistic top 2 or 3 wide receiver. Like again, he's in like the top 10 of almost every major statistical receiving category. And like it only became untenable when like it became clear, oh, this is an actual bad person. This isn't just like a goofus or like a clown. George Pickens is already one of the most dynamic receivers in the league. And again, his antics haven't cost his team games, and there's no sign to indicate like he's a bad person. It just seems like he's a guy who like his blood runs hot and he can fly off the handle every now and then. Diontae Johnson is the worst of both worlds, where it seems like his antics really bring the vibe down, but also he's not playing well. He's consistently been this guy where you're like, well, I feel like you should be better than you are. Like you look at everyone on the field and you're like, oh, this really big fast guy, shouldn't he be the best guy on the field? Yeah. And it kind of is crazy. Yeah, it is kind of. Again, in general, like when a division rival is willing to trade you a player, you should treat it like a bigger red flag than it is. Oh wait, no, he went through the Panthers first. But it's like, if a division rival was willing to give this player up, and a team who desperately needed wide receivers basically gave up on him after half a year, that should have been a bigger red flag for the Ravens than it was. But it's like, well, the Chiefs got a new wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, and the Bills got Amari Cooper, so I guess we got to keep up with this arms race.
Yeah.
A different kind of note, a kind of tragic. This is a low light. This is a tragic light. This is Shakespeare. This is King Lear, baby. Shoot, I kind of wanted to see the Panthers in the playoffs.
They're not out. They're not statistically.
They're not out, but it's going to be a lot harder than if a few lucky breaks had gone their way.
Yes, they have to win out, and they do not have a very easy schedule remaining of the Eagles, Cowboys, Cardinals, Bucks, and Falcons, and they have to hope that every other one of those teams loses out.
Yes. So they lost back-to-back games. The first was a heartbreaker against the Kansas City Chiefs, where it looked like the Chiefs were going to get handed their second loss.
They got so lucky.
Someone described it really well as, like, if you showed the Bryce Young's highlights during this game and said, oh, this guy's one of the 5 best wide receivers in the league, everyone, like, the average person who doesn't know football would be like, who doesn't know all the baggage would be like, yeah, that makes sense. I get that from watching him. They end up tying the game 27-27 with a minute 46 left. Patrick Mahomes has another simply stupid, like, 30-yard, like, Rugrats-ass run to get them into field goal range, and it cost them the game. And then, the following week, playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they looked great. Another game where their offense just looked amazing. Chuba Hubbard, who basically had been given up on by the team, has suddenly become one of their best players, and they extended him. Mm-hmm. A heartbreaker where in overtime, they're able to force overtime. Or, like, they take... Oh, no. They take the lead. Bucks kick a field goal. And in overtime, it looks like the Panthers are going to be able to march down and win the game. Adam Thielen has an insane one-handed bop-it-to-yourself catch. But Chuba Hubbard fumbles the ball and allows Tampa to kick a field goal. Again, 2 have-to-win games that just slip out of your fingers. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't even be heartbroken because, like, if you told me I'd be actually rooting for the Panthers to win games after how fucking awful this season started, where you have Bryce Young benched and it's like his NFL career is over, most likely. Like, I'd be like, man, this is a great turn of events. It's the first time I've actually gotten the Bryce Young experience in terms of, like, when people are describing why they had him number one in that draft, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But you watch it when it's working, and you're like, oh, I see. Because it really is like, he is, like, when you don't have the best physical traits, you really do need, like, some kind of incredible tangible. For Baker Mayfield, it's an irrational confidence and, like, a chain-snatching swagger. And for Bryce Young, it is this, like, weird level of just, like, game flow, where you watch it and it's like, yeah, he just seems to have a complete understanding of everything that's happening around him now. And, like, he's staying in the pocket. He's like, I know I can get this throw off. I might have to get hit, but that's okay. And, like, now that he's had a minute to breathe, you're like, oh, everything's kind of working. Is it perfect? No. There's still a noticeable lack of talent at wide receiver. Their defense still sucks. But at least now you're like, we don't have to panic draft a quarterback. We can ride this out for another year. And in this division, maybe we can compete next year. And it's just heartbreaking that they weren't able to get it a year earlier, because I'm like, can we give Bryce Young comeback player of the year because he got benched this year?
Nah, I don't think that's possible. But I think the Panthers benching him was probably the best thing for him, and they have like a weird refresh of hope.
Mm-hmm. It helped, like, again, he just, and someone talked about it, it's like, we underrate how human all of these players are, and how bad things can, like, how difficult it is to go from, like, the best player who's ever played in your high school, and one of the best players in college, to going to the NFL and having to ask yourself for the first time, do I actually suck at this?
Yeah.
Like, you know, he got sacked at a crazy rate. His girlfriend broke up with him for Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers. Truly, maybe the worst year of his sports life. And then, like, comes back this year and it immediately starts bad. But benching him not only seems to have helped him, but it also helped the team, because it's like, oh, the minute, you know, the team just needed to, like a reset. Get Andy Dalton as, like, the adult in the room. Figure out how to actually run the offense. And now it's actually going well. Yeah. And again, it just, I only feel bad because I'm like, you were right there. Like, you were so close. Like, but that's like, again, it's a victory in the sense of, like, now they're like a scrappy young team where you're like, man, you're right there. You're so close. You just got to figure out how to turn these L's into W's.
And they've done better than projected, so.
Right. They're not going to get the first overall pick, which I consider a huge victory.
Yeah. And honestly, a little bit of focus on just building up their, like, position players.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be like the best team for the next couple of years, but it's like they can at least start it seems like they started the turnaround now.
Right. This no longer feels like the worst franchise in sports, which, again, just to get out of that, again, my fucking Buffalo Sabres haven't gone to the playoffs in, like, 15 years. Like, I would kill just to get out of that pit and be, like, a kind of competent team.
Yeah.
And
like we said, still not eliminated.
Hell yeah. Those turkey games were kind of lame, huh? Should we just list them?
Alright, so let's see. It started off with Detroit versus the Bears, where the Bears kind of blew it themselves at the end, as always.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
Kind of lame.
Which is funny, because the Lions were trying to blow it. Like, the first half of the game was like, oh, Caleb's dying out there. And the Lions are like, they're having Penny Sewell throw a pass and he took a sack on, like, a rollout. Like, clearly, they had so much contempt for the Bears. But then the Bears were able to come back, and it felt like the classic, like, man, can the Lions just really never win on Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
And then it ends on the stupidest thing ever, which we'll explain when we talk about the coach firing.
Yeah. So that's dumb. Giants lost to the Cowboys. Whatever.
Yeah, no one cares. It really is, like, it is so striking that both these games...
It was the battle of the worst.
Yeah. It is so striking that both of these games just felt like, look, we can't think of anything interesting. Like, we can't talk any other teams into doing this. So we might as well take advantage of divisional matchups because at least you guarantee, like, especially Dallas, New York is like the epitome of like, look, let's just get two fan bases who are going to watch the games no matter how much butt cheeks their teams are.
Yeah. And then who was it? Because
Miami, Green Bay,
which went also as expected.
just kind of a beatdown. There is something so striking to like having a meme made about your sports team. Instead of rising up and proving it wrong, just proving it right over. You know, the haters said I couldn't do it, and they were right. Honestly, great read on the situation by the haters.
Yeah.
The Dolphins just cannot win in cold weather.
Nope. And I feel like you have so many people watching, and I get that. I mean, the first two games are divisional games, so it's like at least that's going for them. But it wasn't number one team. It was like the Lions was number one team in the division versus number 4, and it was like a clear number 4. It wasn't like an AFC or NFC West number 4 where it's still anyone's game. And then
right, where you're like, this is a cartoon cloud of dust, and I am loving it.
God damn it. And then the second game was numbers 3 and 4 for the NFC East, which is like you have the Cowboys that look like shit, but they're America's team, so all right, I guess it makes sense that they're playing on Thanksgiving with their traditions and shit. And the Giants, the worst team in the division by quite a far point. Another like what the hell kind of moment.
Yeah.
That Miami
and then that night game is the night game. It's just like they never know what to do with the night game.
It's also the fact of it is two teams that are, in my opinion, completely different levels, and not in a good way. And I get they have to market it, especially like the Thanksgiving game early, so like they couldn't relegate it. But it's just like you really just kind of threw a ball of spit at the fan on this one, didn't you? Like it's like there's no division. They're not sharing the same stakes. Why bother? Like you have like obviously like if I had to go back to the beginning of the season before schedules came out and stuff like that, you could put Steelers Bengals at that point or Texans Jaguars or something, and hell even Seahawks Jets, like to see if it makes sense better than
might as well double down. I mean, might as well quintuple down on Aaron Rodgers. God knows he did it everywhere else.
Yeah, but it's just like one of those games where it's just like you are not being considered for Don't Sleep On.
Yeah, it's just these games were the epitome of like holiday white noise. It's like, okay, are you really gonna watch 24 Hours of a Christmas Story? No. But you're going to go in and have a couple minutes with it, socialize, maybe be on your phone or watch a little bit while you're eating, and you'll be like, haha, he said fudge, but he didn't say fudge. And then you'll go about your day. And like that was the epitome of all of these games, with the exception of the ending of the Lions-Bears game. Which, should we cover that?
Sure.
Well, we were going to mention Matt Eberflus got fired this week, basically right after the game. Yeah, God, bleak. Especially for a franchise who is famous for not like making big, bold decisions like that. Basically, the Bears were mounting kind of a furious comeback. The Lions were able to take a field goal lead, but the Bears come down almost immediately, just start striking their way downfield. Oh, no. Okay, so here's what it was. The fourth quarter, the Bears scored 2 different touchdowns to get it within 3. Genuinely, Caleb, it's some of the best football we've seen from Caleb in terms of like this is what he looked like when he at his best at USC. Mm-hmm. Just like rubber arm, doing all the Mahomes stuff of just like little guy running around doing crazy shit that like humans shouldn't be able to throw the ball like that. They get it down to, and I believe I'm trying to remember the exact how close they were. I think they were close enough to kick the field
They
goal,
could have gotten a
or
field
at least at least within striking distance of a field goal.
I think they were within the 40.
Yes. So yeah, so it like when they take their second to last time out, they're at the 25. So they're in field goal range. But then it is the most Bears thing that it is epitome of Bears football this year. Shotgun pass for 12 yards, penalty, illegal use of hands, 10 yards. Okay, we're slightly out of field goal range, but we still got a timeout, so that's okay. Caleb Williams gets sacked. The one thing you can't do. For 6 yards, granted, but now you're really out of field goal range, and now you're down, like, you got 18 seconds. So you basically either have to run a play super fast and call a timeout, or call the timeout now and accept, like, you got one shot to, like, get to the sideline. The story as to what had happened then, the reason why the ball did not get snapped until there were 6 seconds left is that he was struggling to get the play call from the sideline. The sideline was dilly-dallying. He realized after he got the play call that there was only 10 seconds left on the clock. Audibles to basically, instead of calling the timeout, which really, like, look, a big part of what went wrong this season is you put too much on Caleb's shoulders as a rookie. Mm-hmm. You're asking him to do a lot of really complex, like, line reads. You're asking him to, like, identify blitz packages, to identify all these coverage things, and he's doing a pretty decent job at it. But it's like, again, you're asking him to do all this as a rookie. He is not used to the NFL pace yet. Like, Josh Allen has only just started to get good at this stuff, and he's been doing this for, like, 7 years. So, he audibles to a deep shot, almost pulls it off, but they lose. And very quickly, it becomes clear that, this team really does not like Eberflus, and they finally fire him. And for the third time between Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, and Caleb Williams, a coach drafted him and then immediately gets fired, meaning they're going to have a second coach in 2 years. And I'm making it a sort of set rule for myself. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I'll never own a football team. But just a general, my view on the world is, if you are going to draft a quarterback in the top 10, barring extreme circumstances like everyone got hurt the year before or something like that, it's better to also just fire the coach and have a complete fresh start. No half measures. Because now you're going to be on this jank timeline where the new coach is building everything. And do they want Caleb? Do they not want Caleb? Like, you've just added too many complications to this that simply aren't worth it.
Yeah. Alrighty. I feel like that's all the lows. Shall we get into notable notes?
Yes, please.
Silliest name segment. So we already went over who clinched.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's do who has been eliminated. We have
first up.
Yep, 4 teams, and I feel like none of them are surprised. Actually, one's a slight surprise.
Mm-hmm. First up, the Jacksonville Jaguars with their year from hell.
No surprise there. Followed by the New England Patriots. No surprise there.
Yes. Did you know oh my god, Drake May, did you know he might break the record for most yards per attempt this year? Yeah. He's at like 9.8.
Which
Michael Vick currently holds the record. Yeah, you know what? Good for him. It's not necessarily great because he's running for his life, but you know what?
Yeah. If he ends with at least a top 5 spot in that, which he probably should, I feel like that's a good sign for their future. The one kind of surprising at this point, but also not surprising, is Las Vegas. I'm not surprised they're eliminated from playoffs. I'm surprised it's this early.
Right. As bad as they've been, I felt like they were at least keeping it close enough.
Yeah. They were keeping it close enough for a while, but then they just kind of... I mean, they're 2-10. But they very quickly have been falling apart. They're on an 8-game losing streak. And
I don't understand them because, again, it's like they have so many parts from so many different eras. I don't know where you go from here.
And it's like,
other than Brock Bowers is good.
They lost by 2 to the Chiefs. They lost by 10. bigger score differences. They lost by 7 to the they lost by 7 to the Chiefs. They lost by 5 to the Rams. Like there were some of these games they could have had a better chance of winning. They beat the Ravens like early on in the season, so it's like going in they had potential at the wazoo.
It's not a lack of talent; it's a lack of vision, of coaching, of
Everything else.
general plan. I mean, if Tom Brady didn't co-own the team, I would. This actually would be a good spot for Belichick because a lot of the pieces are already there,
Yeah.
and you kind of just need someone to be like a dictator and be like, "This is what the football team is." They tried that with Gruden, and obviously that was a
Yeah, that kind of
the
flopped.
one man who has permanently been like it's wild that like I don't know. I was watching Urban Meyer on like college football, and them like and like all these Ohio State fans being like, "We got to bring him back. This is unacceptable. We keep losing to Michigan." And I'm like, that man kicked his own kicker, was caught doing like extramarital stuff in a bar because he didn't go home with the team, uh, didn't know who Aaron Donald was, and just generally was a fucking dick. And that guy has been rehabilitated. John Gruden? No. He's just like no attempt. He's not been allowed back at ESPN. He's not been allowed back anywhere. Like the rare time we actually do pull off cancel. That man is on his own and a little wrapped out on nowhere. But anyway, yes, they just have a lack of vision. And the Giants have a lack of money because they gave it all to Daniel Jones, who isn't even on the team anymore.
Yep, Daniel Jones was the last one. Or no, the Giants were. Daniel Jones now a Viking. I feel like we didn't address that yet. He's a Viking now. Kind of interesting. Um, Also eliminated.
Oh, yeah, he is a Viking.
And
Odd choice, but all right.
yeah, we already talked about who's clinched. Buffalo's got the division. Kansas City's got a wild card. And then the question of the week: whose season tickets do you think are the best price per quality? Like, I'm gonna make it a little bit simpler. Say say the season tickets are $100 a game for relatively decent seats. So you got like roughly what eight nine home games, give or take.
Hmm.
So just you'll pay about $1,000 total for the entire season. Not picking your team. Whose do you think is the most worth it? Like the you're getting your best. Like you are getting the bang out of your buck, and this isn't including drinks and food and stuff. It's like I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna have fun watching.
Hmm. See, I really want. I guess it's like the philosophy of like what games you go see. And the last time I was at major sporting events pre-COVID, I was going to Sixers games where I'm like, I am going to see some important play, like Giannis. So I feel like in that case, I'm leaning toward the Eagles, and maybe that's a homer pick, but I'm like, am I going? I guess the question I'm asking myself is, am I going to be sad if I never got to see Saquon Barkley do shit in person?
Yeah,
Like of all the players in the NFL, it's like what him, Lamar, Josh Allen. Like who are the guys who I'm like I will be actively sad if I can never say I saw this person do cool shit live, and I'm gonna go with the Eagles on that because they also have AJ Brown, who's another one of my players, and Devonta Smith, who's one of my favorite players. Like in terms of like talking about ticket value, it's pound for pound guys I want to see doing cool things.
yeah. I'm leaning towards a more like a little bit of a different approach. I wanna I want to see games that they're like I hopefully the team wins, but like I want I want to be with the fans. I want to be with that camaraderie. I want games that I'm not gonna sit down for. Like if if I pee on the seat in front of me because I don't want to miss a second of it, I'll be happy. And I think the team that best emphasizes that is Green Bay.
I really like that one.
Well, not the most winning team because I feel like having an undefeated season gets boring. Hot take. Like yeah,
At
your
some
team.
point, it just becomes too much stress.
your team keeps winning, but it's like I feel like even with how the Chiefs have been winning with all those like one score games, it's just kind of like I'm gonna be nervous and then excuse me, something's gonna go in my favor. But
Mm.
like Packers have been all over the place on the competitiveness scale, and their losses are close, and their wins are typically close, or like, but there's occasionally a far apart ones. So I feel like they would be the funnest team to like there. Also, the craziness of Packers fans
Mm.
would also be a best thing. Yeah, originally this question I was gonna look up all the numbers and see like how much season ticket things are, but that's like its own separate episode.
I did see Falcons Carolina currently has tickets as low as $27, and I'm like,
Yeah,
that can't be right.
the reason I thought of this was because I saw how empty the Panther Stadium was.
Right. Could you imagine having a whole row to yourself at a sporting event?
That would be
Like, what would you
awesome.
even do? It
If
kind of would be fun.
if it
Just keep changing seats.
if it was just me, I think it would suck. But if it was like, say, it's like a row of 10, and it was like me and five people, like a total of 5 people, I feel like it would be fun. Because that's when you and your friends just get hella rowdy and crazy in the best possible way.
Yeah, I really like that. Well, no, that's like when we rented out that theater for my birthday for Shang-Chi, where it's like, it kind of does rule to just have a huge space for you and like 5 people, where you all have an understanding of like what the social decorum is, and you're
Yep.
all just vibing.
And yeah, no, that was a great time.
Um, yeah, like you're all on the same page about like how drunk. Well, not in movie theater, but like how drunk you're all gonna get, like how crazy you're gonna get. Like you don't have to worry about like, oh god, I went to a Phillies playoff game. It was the last one they went to for like 12 years. It was just before that drought. It was the Four Aces year. Ryan Howard tore his Achilles that game, and this one guy who my dad described as a Robert Downey Jr. looking motherfucker, and I think he meant Johnny Depp, and kept getting them mixed up because I don't see where he was getting that from. Kept like just blocking everyone's view and clapping, and finally someone goes, "Sit down," and the guy goes, "It's a ball game in America." And I'm like, see, you would avoid stuff like that. Like, again, like the social contract of it all. But I digress. Shall we move on to next week?
We shall.
All right, the big games of the week. One of them is secretly already happened.
Yeah, Green Bay versus Detroit, playing for play like for the playoff picture. Detroit technically will make it for if they win this game. Who's to know how that would happen? Um, they would get a playoff spot. Green Bay still fighting for a wild card spot, and Detroit would at least get wild card. It would not get division. Another big game: Kansas City versus the Chargers. I felt like that deserves being mentioned as a big game. It is the when is this game? It is the Sunday night game. The last game they played, the Chargers lost by 7, so they're one of the one score teams. And it is the 1 and 2 of the AFC West. And
Yes, I think this is going to be a big parameter for what the upside
yeah,
of the Chargers is right now.
the Chargers look a lot more competent together
Hmm.
now than they did previously. So, like, who knows if the lad will show up?
Hmm. Yes, he is on the injury report, so holding out hope that he'll be able to show up. And somehow, inexplicably, there is a Simpsons game.
Yes. So, do you remember last year they did it was like the Falcons versus the
Jaguars Toy
Jaguars, where
Story,
they did
yes.
Toy Story themed. They are doing the Monday night game as like a Simpsons themed game, like the overlays and
Yes.
all that stuff, and it is fucking hysterical in my opinion.
Mina Kimes and Dan Orlovsky have been Simpsonized.
Yep, they
Uh,
they've
wild that we're doing this.
it's wild that we're doing this, and it's hilarious because they made it before the season, obviously, and they thought it was going to be two competitive teams, but it's the Bengals and the Cowboys, and they can't change it because they spent all season just taking care of everything. And I'm so excited to watch that game because the Bengals have looked pretty good. I think they are this year's best worst team.
Yes, they have absolutely taken that championship belt.
Yeah, it was the Cardinals last year. But the Cardinals have been decent and a very competitive division. Bengals, not the biggest winners, but it's been a the rest of their division or two of their teams in their division have been super competitive. They've been kind of holding their own, and then there's the Browns, and it's against the Cowboys, America's team, who's got a slightly better record, but also it's kind of I wouldn't say their competency is the best.
Right, I agree.
Um,
Yeah, this is a game that actually like kind of does need the memes.
yeah, so I think that's what would keep it interesting, but I think it's just like maybe they can do the whole like they just make it super silly like the SpongeBob game that one Christmas and just really
Hmm.
go for the just fuck it all factor. Um Bye weeks. Last week for buys and it is a hefty one. We have
Yes, because they want everyone to play at Christmas, so we have to cram them in. Really kind of fucked over my fantasy team, but I won't get into that.
yeah. I mean that's all on you. You drafted it like that. But we have the Baltimore Ravens, who Deontay Johnson's suspension will affect Week 15, not Week 14, because it's stupid to
Right.
suspend someone for the bye week. Um, they
Be a funny
need,
bit though.
yeah, it'd be hilarious, but they need to just keep their head together, take the break off, zone in, and really have a strong finish. Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's have a bye. I think they've
Yes, coming
already
off a delightfully fun game.
delightfully fun game. They've overperformed for this season so far. I think it's going to be a week to rest up the boys and continue to go for the wild card.
Yes.
Houston is the opposite scenario from Denver. Denver is a solid rest up and let's finish out strong. Houston is we need to get our shit together because they are falling apart very quickly and
Yeah, this could not have come at a better time for them, frankly.
after the 3 game suspension and all that jazz, like they're still projected to be playoff bound, but they need to get their head on the shoulders if they want to make it past the wild card round. Indianapolis Colts, I believe they have the means to make a playoff push.
They're
Kind of.
technically within striking distance of the Texans with
Yeah, yeah, they're the quote unquote in the hunt teams, but it they need more things to go into their favor than not.
mm,
Um, I think it's just figure out what you want to do. Do you want to finish? How strong do you want to finish? Are you fighting for? You gonna tank for some draft picks? You want to chill out to make sure people stay healed? You have actually strength of schedule is relatively easy. They have Broncos, which is not the easy, which is their most difficult team to play. The other teams are Titans, Giants, Jaguars. You could make that late push for the uh, like number 7 seed in the wild card, and hope things go in your favor. Because there's going to be 2 teams from the north, possibly 3 teams from the west, depending on how things fall.
mm,
So they could make a last ditch push. I don't think any a second team from the AFC East is going to be there. And if the Texans don't fall in their favor, Texans have a lot harder last remaining games, so they might be able to very late upsert of them. Who knows? New England, give Drake make a break.
yeah, just a day where he doesn't have to run for his life, please.
Yeah, give him.
He's the Magic School Bus kid being like, can we just have a normal
Yeah,
day?
his name is
Fuck
Arden.
that!
But yeah,
Thank you. And
um,
then go to space.
yeah. Then they go inside him and stuff, and it's weird. Um, rest up, figure out if you want to tank for draft picks, chill out. I think you play the Bills. They play the Bills twice,
Right.
which is,
Which I'm like, if the Bills are going to blow one of these games, it's going to be that one.
I mean, obviously,
It's so obvious.
but yeah, they play Cardinals, Bills, Chargers, Bills. I don't. That's a very, that's a pretty tough remaining schedule. So I think you just talk about draft picks and
Mm.
how high you want to go. Like I can see them pushing for one and then trading back to like 4 or 5 to because they don't need a quarterback. Drake May, they definitely don't need a quarterback, but they can push up and then drop like trade back, get maybe another second round or something good for it, get a decent receiver or two, maybe some linemen. Really,
Yeah, they just need dudes. They got the dude at quarterback, but
And then last is Washington Commanders,
who had finally had their get right game against the Titans.
yeah, they were on a little bit of a cold streak. Lost by one to the Steelers, lost by more than one to the Eagles, had the most bizarre 2 minutes of football to the Cowboys, and then just fucking smoked the Titans 19-42. And they have Saints, Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys left. Not, I wouldn't say it's their gimme games, but I think if they continue at the rate they've been doing, that Cowboys game could be a starter game resting.
Hmm.
So and we've talked about it, they've already overperformed for this year, so
Yeah,
let them
like
do what they
it'd
want.
be right. I'm just like, get to the playoffs. At this point, you've
Chill
done so
out.
well. Just don't blow the playoff spot.
Yeah, keep the vibes going. Don't let Jaden hurt his ribs more in something stupid. Just go out to Applebee's as a team, rent out the place, and just take some time, chill out, and just keep the rolls going because they're doing good.
Hmm. Or don't sleep on games. You got Seattle at Arizona. I've given up on the West. I'm just gonna let whatever happen. I'm almost like,
here's why I chose them over pretty much all the other games. Besides being at the 4 o'clock time slot, which one of 3 games is at least somewhat favorable, and it's not the Simpsons game, which is unfortunate for them. But it is, I think, out of all the divisional games, because there's a decent amount of divisional games this week, and there's a decent amount of wild card competitor games this week. But this is the only one that is the 1 and 2 of the division going after each other. Or well, this and the Chargers, but the Chargers Chiefs is Sunday night. Like Bills Rams, Bills already have that divisional spot. Rams could be making a push, depending on how they do, but the Bills aren't going to be soft. And Seahawks, Cardinals. I believe if the Cardinals win, they beat the tiebreakers, and that will put them at 1. And Seahawks might be able to get a little bit of a safer net because they still have Packers, Vikings, Bears, and Rams to go. So any team in that division that can get more than 1 game ahead is going to be lucky. And yours is very interesting for a don't sleep on game.
yes. I will say about Arizona, Seattle, it is probably the most two talented groups. Seattle's defense, which has finally come alive. 300-pound man interception return for a touchdown last week.
Which is awesome.
In Arizona, yes. I think pound for pound, it was one of the largest touchdown runs.
I love
and
a good
Arizona's
boy touchdown.
Oh yeah, it was slick as hell. And Arizona has the best offense because the Rams just do not have the offensive line for their ambition. But yes, I ended up picking Carolina at Philadelphia because I think this is the big test for Carolina in terms of this is the hottest team in the league right now. Tampa Bay's good but not great, and the Chiefs have kind of just been going through the expectations. This is like a team coming off its hottest win
Mm-hmm.
with the best defense you're going to play for a while. Like, can you look competent? Can you at least look like you belong on the field with them? And I am so curious. Like, this feels like a classic Eagles kind of underperform and everyone's sphincter gets tightened.
Yeah.
I just think it's a game that could produce a lot of very interesting narratives and set kind of the discussion for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think if the Panthers don't lose this game, like if the Eagles win and the Panthers just don't lose, they're setting themselves up for a good look next year.
Hmm.
Especially with
It's also
how
another. Oh,
Bucks and everyone else in their division have been just kind of falling apart weirdly.
it's also a weirdly good. It's also a weirdly good. Another good running back game. There's a chance for. I'm hoping it's the Chuba Hubbard redemption game, and
I I don't want to. I don't like to say too much pro Eagles before a game, but it's. I think their defensive line and offensive lines are on two different levels. I don't think he's going to be able to have that redemption game this game.
right. Well, that's the biggest test because the thing they spent the most money on the offseason was their interior offensive line. Will they be able to?
This is
Like,
their test for sure.
yeah,
Because it is. You are not going to have small men going after you. You're not going to have. Like, you are going to be faced with monster trucks.
mhm.
And they're scary monster trucks. And then you have the Unabomber in the backfield, like, right away.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a great.
Shall we wrap it up? Oh God.
Yeah, let's send.
Yeah.
Let's send.
On that, we've been weirdly political this episode.
Apparently,
But,
you started it.
ladies and gentlemen, as I step outside every night to take out the trash and sit in the grass for a minute to look up at the stars in the night sky, the first couple snowflakes of winter graced my face, and I thought, where would you rather be than right here, right now, in the heat of the playoff push, the heart of the NFL season? And until we're here next time talking about the next round of games that will make or break legacies and destinies, I'm Carter.
I have to take out my trash.
Well, I'm glad I reminded you.
Thanks.
Go watch some football.